in Boston and potential relocation around the National Hockey League.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday afternoon on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-3776. That's 866-729-ESPN. Also coming at you courtesy of 710 ESPN LA and, of course, 98.7 FM right here in New York City. Again, I have to give out this number because people are going to be calling because everybody's going to have a lot to say today at 866-729-ESPN. Look, let's get right to it. We'll have Charles Oakley to talk about. There's a little Jerry Jones to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a little college basketball to talk about, especially after watching that dude Lonzo Ball out of UCLA last night. I definitely got a few things to say about him. And, of course, we'll continue to sit up here and monitor this MVP race because every time I turn on the tube, everybody keep talking about Russell Westbrook and all these triple-doubles. That cannot be ignored. And, of course, you can't ignore the greatness of James Harden. That can't be ignored. But if you haven't watched Isaiah Thomas for the Boston Celtics perform, particularly in the fourth quarter, again, showing up last night, this 5'9" miniature dynamo is leading the league in scoring in the fourth quarter. And if you think for 1 second he isn't a legitimate, bona fide MVP candidate, you need to go and get drug tested. The Boston Celtics are inching up on the Cleveland Cavaliers for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're 34-19. And they got a little dude that's 5'9", that for the vast majority of this month is averaging 40. 40. Somebody better wake up and pay attention. I'm telling you right now. And I think the Lakers could have had this dude. The Knicks probably could have had this dude. I don't even want to bring that part up because I'm in a really, really good mood and I don't want to get upset. I really, really don't. But that really just gets to me and I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, the number is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. First order of business for me, however, it is not Charles Oakley and the New York Knicks. It is Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant is showing up. He's scheduled to show up in Oklahoma City tomorrow night. Game time, 8:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. ABC television, nationally televised. He'll be in the house for the first time since he decided to depart last July 4th from Oklahoma City to join the Golden State Warriors. And I'm here to tell y'all right now, this is something that's going to be special to me. This is something that could potentially be epic to me. This is something that I need to watch out for. And I'm going to tell you why. Everybody keep don't look at an individual game in terms of numbers and what have you about Kevin Durant. Ignore that nonsense. Just ignore it. It means absolutely nothing. Here's what means something. I want to see what Kevin Durant does and how he reacts to the stress and the rest that the Oklahoma City fans are going to throw in his direction. You see, he left Oklahoma City. He left Russell Westbrook. And he left Russell Westbrook carrying the bag of speculation. All of these months, these last 7 months. Just think about this if you're Russell Westbrook. It is one thing entirely for Kevin Durant to leave Golden State. To leave for Golden State, rather. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm Stephen A. I was on the record July 4th. I'm going to be on the record today. I will always be on the record to say that Kevin Durant is a great, great basketball player. Top 2 in the world. Kevin Durant is also an individual that is a basketball ambassador. He's a role model. He's a really, really good dude, y'all. He really is. I don't care the fact that he came at me the wrong way, all salty one time. That doesn't erase the fact that he's a great guy. That doesn't erase the fact that he's a phenomenal basketball player and a good person with a wonderful mom, a wonderful brother, wonderful business manager, wonderful friends. Doesn't erase any of that. But I haven't changed my position. His decision to go to Golden State is the weakest move I've ever seen by a superstar. You're up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals, 48 minutes away from a berth in the NBA Finals. Not once, not twice, but 3 times since you would have won up 3-1, couldn't close the deal, and a month later you depart for the team that beat you. I think that's as weak as it gets. And a month later you depart for the team that beat you after going back in your locker room and telling your troops we'll get at them again next year, when clearly you had no intentions of doing that. And then on top of it all, it left everybody asking questions to Russell Westbrook. Are you the reason he left? You know he felt like he couldn't win a title without you, right? Blah, 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 blah. That's what Russell Westbrook had to deal with. That's what he's had to deal with, which is why I'm looking so forward to this game. Because if Kevin Durant shows up tomorrow night, Saturday night in Oklahoma City, which, by the way, I will be there. If he shows up tomorrow night, maybe, just maybe, I'm going to believe he's going to show up against LeBron James in the finals. Now, Kevin Durant may be a 29-point-per-game scorer on 49% shooting in his career against LeBron James. But LeBron James averages the same amount of points on 52% shooting. And, oh, by the way, his record against Kevin Durant is 18-5. He had won 5 straight versus Kevin Durant until Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors beat him and the Cavaliers this past January 16th. Not to mention the fact that you have some people that believe Kevin Durant went to Golden State because he didn't want to go anywhere else out west, and he damn sure didn't want to come to the Eastern Conference because he'd have to run into LeBron before the finals, and he was fearful that LeBron would get in the way of his title hopes. So he didn't want to meet LeBron until he absolutely, positively had to. I'm not saying that. I'm telling you what has been told to me by NBA personnel, players, and coaches, and others. So we're going to find out about a little something about Kevin Durant tomorrow night, and maybe we'll get some indication of what we can expect come NBA Finals time. Because if he performs under this level of duress, who knows? 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. The other story going on involves Charles Oakley. As y'all know, he came on this show, the Stephen A. Smith Show, right here on ESPN Radio. He came on here yesterday, apologized to New York Knicks fans for what happened, but still doubled down on his position, that he did nothing to deserve what the New York Knicks did to him. Remember that. That's what he said. You got other players weighing in. Chris Paul, D. Wade, others in favor of Charles Oakley, talking about how real he is, how honest he is, etc., etc. Remember that. That's what they were saying. And so now we have a situation where almost in the immediate aftermath of Charles Oakley being on this show, the New York Knicks issued this statement, an updated statement from the night before. There are dozens of security staff, employees, and NYPD that witnessed Oakley's abusive behavior. It started when he entered the building and continued until he was arrested and left the building. Every single statement we have received is consistent in describing his actions. Everything he said since the incident is pure fiction. They're calling him a liar. Period. I've never known Oakley to be a liar. Players like Chris Paul, CP3, Dwayne Wade, and others have never known Charles Oakley to be a liar. So I don't know where y'all fall on the side of that. That's all I'm willing to say. Again, we have to be responsible here and be fair-minded and understand that the Knicks have a position of their own, which is counter to what Oakley is saying. But I will tell you this. When he talked about being followed around to the point where he was followed to the restrooms, I've had numerous sources who have confirmed he's telling the truth on that point. And one of the other things that's happened is that MSG security chief, Frank Benedetto, was fired by the New York Knicks. From what I'm being told, the New York Knicks' position is that this had absolutely positively nothing to do with the Oakley fiasco and the immediate aftermath of it. But ladies and gentlemen, I ask you this question. Let's just say for the sake of argument, let's not even argue about it. Because we all know that most folks ain't going to believe a damn word that the Knicks are saying about that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's play the devil's advocate. The New York Knicks are telling the truth. This had absolutely nothing to do with the Oakley incident in question. How the hell does it look that 24 hours after it happens, the man's fired? Or 36 hours, whatever you want to pick. You want to nitpick. A day or a day and a half after the Oakley fiasco at the Garden, that the man is fired. How does that look? How does that look? Does that make you believe the Knicks? Or does that make you think they're lying about everything even more? It's just a question. It's just a question. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Oakley and the Knicks. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. Big time game tomorrow night on ABC. And so much more to talk about. Right here with Stephen A. on ESPN. By the way, the biggest medical center on earth isn't found on the East Coast or the West Coast. It's found in Houston, Texas, America's third coast. Houston is home to the Texas Medical Center, or as they call it, TMC. It's the largest medical city on the planet. Each year, the TMC's 21 hospitals serve over 8 million patients. Its 3 medical schools and 6 nursing schools educate tomorrow's medical leaders. More doctors, nurses, and scientists work at the TMC than any other site in the world. With over 100,000 employees, it's the 8th largest business district in America. Every 3 minutes, a surgeon begins at the TMC. A surgery begins at the TMC. Every 20 minutes, a baby is born. The Texas Medical Center leads the world in clinical research. TMC doctors and scientists are at the forefront of life-saving medical advances, developing new treatments, drugs, and devices to improve the health of humanity. So find out more about the innovations happening at the Texas Medical Center at tmc.edu. It's Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Kawhi Leonard, right side 3, knocks down the triple. Oh, man, why?
Quietly, the San Antonio Spurs have the second best record in the NBA and sit within striking distance of the Warriors.
Kawhi Leonard, it just seems he can do everything. He is a two-way player extraordinaire.
This Sunday, they head to Madison Square Garden to face the Knicks. Coverage begins at 2:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I just, listen. You want to give you want to give the Knicks the benefit of the doubt, maybe. Most people don't, though, because of Dolan and others. And then an innocent bystander by, the security chief at MSG gets fired. They swear it has nothing to do with him, but it's less than 2 days after the incident took place. Who the hell's going to believe that? Nobody's going to believe that. It's just not going to happen. So you got that issue going on. Then you want to give the benefit of the doubt to Oakley because he talks about how he loves the Knicks, he roots for the Knicks, and he just doesn't like how this feels. So you got that incident in question. Then we get to something else, too. On a better note. Ladies and gentlemen, did y'all hear the news about Magic Johnson? Magic Johnson wants to be a leader. Did you hear him? That's what he said. And I can't wait. I mean, where do I sign up? Where do I sign up? I want to know. I mean, this is important to me. I mean, this is a guy that sat up there and, 5-time champion, arguably the greatest Laker ever, unless you want to put Kobe in that equation. Brought on as a consultant by Jeannie Buss less than 2 weeks ago. And listen to what he was quoted as saying yesterday. He said he wants to call the shots for the Los Angeles Lakers. This is just a week after it was announced he has rejoined the team as an advisor to owner Jeannie Buss. Listen to this quote. It's from Magic Johnson now. Irvin Magic Johnson. Quote, working to call the shots because it only works that way. Right now, I'm advising. I get that. But at the end of the day, then we all got to come together and somebody's got to say, I'm making the final call, all right? And who's that going to be? So we'll see what happens. What the hell is there to talk about? Jeannie Buss, wherever you are, stop what you're doing and you listen to me right now. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not talking to the fellas. I'm talking to a lady. And my mama always told me when you're talking to a lady, you lower your voice. Jeannie Buss, I need you to stop what you're doing and listen to me right now. Jeannie Buss, the lovely Jeannie Buss, who's always so sweet to me, I must confess, just seems to be a wonderful woman. Jeannie Buss, your daddy, Dr. Buss, is gone. God rest his soul. What a wonderful job he did stewarding the Lakers franchise. We're all indebted to him. He was around for most of those 16 NBA championships that this as a franchise won after he succeeded Jack Kent Cooke as the owner. You're 18-37 this season. You're combined 65-181 dating back to the 3 previous seasons. Jim Buss, your brother, his son. I have no questions about the man's character, but I don't know him. I just know he stinks as an executive presiding over the Lakers franchise. His record has proven it. His decisions has proven it. His willingness to let personal feelings get in the way of his professional judgment when he decided to go behind Phil Jackson's back, the coach, not the executive Phil Jackson, the coach, and hire Mike D'Antoni instead, who's doing an excellent job and is my coach of the year in Houston this year. But when he was with the Lakers, damn it, that wasn't the case. And you had a chance to get Phil Jackson back, and you didn't. And had you brought Phil Jackson back, you might have got the Dwight Howard. You would have had him with Kobe. Kobe wouldn't have been running to the ground. The Achilles injury might not have been suffered. And as a result, 2 of the last 3 years might have been a hell of a lot better than they were. Jeannie Buss, you now have an opportunity to bring respect and credibility back to the Lakers franchise, because you'll have somebody that knows basketball as well, if not better, than anyone I've ever known in my life. Allow me to share a personal story. The Miami Heat are playing the Dallas Mavericks in the 2011 NBA Finals. They are in Dallas, okay? They're in Dallas, mind you. They're playing the Dallas Mavericks. This is 2011. And one of the greatest honors of my career was me simply sitting in the suite with Magic Johnson as he broke down what was transpiring. And the game that I'm talking about here is June 9th of 2011. It was a game that the Miami Heat would lose, dropping them down 3-2 in this series. It was a game, one of those fourth quarter appearances where LeBron James was nowhere to be found. He finished with 17 points that game. Dwayne Wade had 23. He showed up. Chris Bosh had 19. It was a game in which Dirk Nowitzki went off and led them to victory, putting Dallas up 3-2 in this series. In the third quarter and the fourth quarter of that game, I sat next to Magic Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no exaggeration. Every single play, every single incident that took place, he called it the play before. Okay, this is what's going to happen here. All right, now that happened, Dirk's going to get the ball right on there in that left wing. He's going to shoot the turnaround jumper because he see they're exposed here. All right, here, LeBron James is supposed to take it, but he's a bit timid right now. He's going to be scared. You got Jason Terry on you. Or J.J. Barea on you, who's a foot smaller. You got to take him, but he's not going to do it, Stephen A., because he's still timid. He's not there yet psychologically. Watch what he's going to do. He's going to settle for the fall-away jumper. And that's exactly what LeBron did. All right, right here, Dwayne Wade going to stop this bleeding. He's going to take it to the hole. He's going to get to the free throw line because something like that has to be done. That's what Dwayne Wade did. Chris Bosh going to shoot up for this elbow. I don't think he's going to make it, though. He hasn't looked confident all day long. Even though he's shooting 50% from the field, he ain't trying to look for his shot the way that he should. And that's what happened. I sat with Magic Johnson for 45 minutes and watched him call every single thing that took place. Everything. And I mean everything. Ladies and gentlemen, you can there could be a university on basketball. You could major in basketball. You could go there for 4 years, and you wouldn't learn what I learned by sitting next to Magic Johnson and talking to him directly for 45 minutes during that game. The man is a basketball savant. And there's a question as to who should be making basketball decisions for the Los Angeles Lakers when clearly this man is willing to do it. Jeannie Buss, what the hell is there to think about? You strip Magic Johnson from that advisor title. You fire your little brother. You reassign him, you do something. And you preserve a legacy your daddy worked tirelessly to build. You return Magic Johnson to the Los Angeles Lakers. You put him in complete control of basketball operations. You let him decide who the general manager is going to be. He'll leave Luke Walton in place because Luke Walton is going to be a bright young coach. And you let him build this franchise because he's Earvin Magic Johnson, because he knows what he's doing, and because we all know that's more than you can say for the man in charge right now. 866-729-ESPN is 866-729-3776. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
One of the things that's so sad about the whole Phil Jackson situation in New York City, and I know he tried to go out there and calm Oakley down before calling Michael Jordan to intervene, but Michael Jordan couldn't because by that time Charles Oakley had been arrested. One of the things that's so unfortunate about it is that when we're talking about Magic Johnson with the Lakers, Phil would have been somebody once upon a time that could have been the executive for the Los Angeles Lakers. But considering his childish tendencies and his hypocrisy, actually, maybe the best move Jim Buss made was making sure Phil didn't become the executive for the Los Angeles Lakers. Because look at how he handles things in New York. Talking about Melo, throwing him under the bus, doing all of this nonsense, creating a firestorm. And then after that, to have the audacity to come out with a quote yesterday. And look at this tweet. I say the quote, but it was a tweet. Listen to what Phil Jackson says. So after starting got the emoji fire, after starting a firestorm with a misunderstood tweet, I offered this. Our society is torn with discord. I'm against it. Let it be. So let me get this straight. You instigate matters by tweeting because your dude Kevin Ding, I think it's from Bleacher Report, he writes an article about Phil, about Melo. Phil chimes in unsolicited to comment about how he might have missed a boat and then decides to compare Carmelo Anthony to Michael Graham, talk about how a leopard can't change his stripes, just disrespecting Melo at every turn. After all of that happens, here he comes talking about, so after starting a firestorm with a misunderstood tweet, I offer this. Our society is torn with the discord. I'm against it. Let it be. Oh, show up. Phil Jackson is something else. Talk about a dude who just ride away into the sunset and live off the legacy of those 11 championships. There's the reality. If Phil Jackson's not coaching, we don't want to hear from him. Because we damn sure don't want to hear from him as an executive because the man has a worse record than Isaiah Thomas had. And you know how much Isaiah Thomas took. And I'm here to tell you he didn't deserve it all. Some of it, yes, not all. And now you got Phil exercising in futility every day as we watch these Knicks. Please, you ain't thinking about him now. But if you Jeannie Buss, get Magic up in there and call it a day. Stop messing around. Take advantage of this moment while you got a chance. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Benjamin in New York. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Ben? Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen. I'm just talking about Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook.
Go ahead.
Westbrook feud. I personally think that they're really not in such a big feud. I think it's more of like playing around and want to get names about them as be hype and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's just like not really true, and it's just like they're really like good friends behind everybody else's back?
No. Russell Westbrook's not that kind of dude. He's very, very serious. Russell Westbrook ain't playing that game. He ain't trying to act on that line. That's not true. Appreciate the call, though, Benjamin. Thank you. Let's go to Stacy in New York. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN. What's going on, Stacy? How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Stephen A.
How
I was calling about the Knicks. Oh, I'm pretty good. Nice to hear your voice again. So I was calling about the Knicks, my favorite team. Boo. Anyway, I was very, very disappointed to hear that they used the head of security as a scapegoat, and in lieu of coming out to make make some kind of light of the situation, to give us fans something of substance to explain what happened. Why was Charles Oakley ejected from the game? He didn't look like he was doing anything.
Hold on, Stacey. In fairness to the Knicks, they did give an explanation, and they said he was factually incorrect, that everything about what he had to say was a lie. I mean, most people don't believe him, but they did make their case very, very clear. They say that he was loud and obnoxious and conducting himself in a certain way, in a disrespectful fashion towards James Dolan, which was why they did what they did. Now, it doesn't. So
then he should have threw everybody out. Then why not throw everybody in the garden out? Listen, when I'm there watching the game and I see him on the big screen, I'm booing. I never got ejected. Why haven't they come and eject me and my friends?
Very, very good point. Very, very good point. And the thing about it is that Oakley, that's where the Knicks lose the argument, because there's plenty of people, based on what they described Oakley was doing, there's plenty of patrons that do that towards James Dolan.
Exactly. And I do it towards Phil Jackson. I mean, why haven't they come and eject? And I have a big mouth. So if this guy was sitting right there, and according to what I saw on TV, he didn't look like he was doing anything until,
He said he was only there for 4 minutes. What could he have done? That's what he was saying.
Exactly. I'm there for a full, 2.5 hours. Yeah. And every time they show him on the screen, or every time they show Phil Jackson waving, sitting there looking old and wormy, because that's what I call him, I'm yelling, boo, boo. I have a big mouth. So
I got you.
If you're going to throw out Charles Oakley, then you need to throw out everyone else who's doing the same exact thing that you allege that Charles Oakley was doing for 4 minutes. He wasn't even there long enough to say anything. So, this.
In other words, you don't believe the Knicks. Stacey, you don't believe the Knicks.
I don't believe the Knicks. No, I don't believe the Knicks.
Thank you so much, Stacey. I appreciate the call. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call. That's 866-729-3776. More of your phone calls on the Knicks, on Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers, on Kevin Durant returning to Oklahoma City, and more. Plus, I'll get into players speaking out against the President of the United States and how they have some pretty strong support. I'll explain what I mean by that in hour number 2. Stick around. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
Kevin Durant is now a Golden State Warrior.
Kevin Durant is leaving.
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar.
We talked to one fan here, and she actually talked about how this has kind of resolved her to stick with the Thunder even more.
Kevin Durant makes his first trip to Oklahoma City as a Warrior.
Westbrook ascends like a rocket to the cup.
Don't miss the fireworks this Saturday night in OKC. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Just looking at the news right here. On most radio shows, Tiger Woods will be a topic. He's backing out of the next 2 golf tournaments. None of them are majors, but he's backing out the next 2 of them because of back spasms. Let me be very, very clear about my position on Tiger Woods. I think he's finished. I said that years ago. I'm saying it again. I've been proven correctly. I think he's finished. And it's very, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. I don't wish that to be the case because he's the greatest ever, as far as I'm concerned. I say that because his game was predicated on a psychological advantage that he had. It was very, very important for him to live the lie that he was living, before we found out he was a freak. And I say freak like not like, just, oh, my goodness, he's going to harm people, whatever. I'm just talking about, he had recreational tendencies that were, dare we say, excessive. That's what I mean by a freak. Having said all of that, not for me to judge him. Let other people do that. The flip side to it is this. Tiger Woods was living a lie. And once that lie got exposed, I think it stripped him of his manhood psychologically. The man that he was, that bravado, that swag is gone. And I don't think he'll ever get it back because I believe that Tiger Woods is more interested in what people think about him now than he is winning. Whereas before, he didn't care about what people thought about him. He just cared about winning because he knew that people really didn't know the real stuff about him. See what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. I mean, I remember rap artist Houdini used to come out with that song, Freaks Come Out at Night. Well, Tiger came out in the daytime, morning time, sunlight, dawn, night, everywhere. I mean, the freaks come out at night. Say what? Say what? That was Tiger. And he got caught and it messed with him. And I believe, in my heart of hearts, back injuries and all, the way to success for Tiger Woods is to get to the point where he could literally give 2 cents what anybody thinks or feel about him again. That's what I think. That's just me. 866-729 ESPN is 866-729-3776. Back to the phones we go. Marcus in Jersey City. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Marcus?
How's everything, Steve? Good.
I'm good.
Big
Talk
fan
to
of
me.
you.
Thanks. Go ahead.
So I have a question. There's an article out about Jerry West being interested in a Lakers job. I know his contract is up with the Warriors this season. Do you think, can you chime on about that and him and Magic Johnson be able to work together or something like that?
Well, I can tell you this. He told me he wasn't interested with that. If things could work out with the Warriors, he would be happy with doing that. I know his son is a member of the Lakers organization, and I think that he's the future for the Los Angeles Lakers franchise. The son of Jerry West, I hear phenomenal things about this man. Phenomenal things about this man. And I don't think Jerry will want to interfere with that. Actually, I came up with the idea last year before Magic got back into the picture. They should bring Jerry back to basically tutor and school his son even more. So once it was time for his son to be ready to take the helm, we don't question the greatness of Jerry West.
Of course not, but I see when you said that on First Take.
Yeah, I love Jerry West. And I mean, Jerry West and it was wonderful to have conversations with him because you have folks out there making Jerry West think I didn't like him. I'm very fond of Jerry West. I think he's a phenomenal basketball mind. I think his reputation his basketball credentials are impeccable. I don't think he's flawless. He's made mistakes like everybody else. But Jerry West could be the basketball executive for my team any day of the week and twice on Sunday. There's no question about that.
I think both of them, with Magic, his son, and him, they'll get the Lakers back with it. Because I'm a big
I really
Lakers
don't
fan.
think all three are necessary. I think as long as you got Magic or Jerry West in that position, with the son on the come up, I think it's no problem at all. But thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Mustafa in Vancouver. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Mustafa, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, brother. I watched you with that show, General Hospital. You're doing very good, my man. Keep it up, okay?
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
All right.
I was on
All
yesterday,
right, so
too. I couldn't believe it. I forgot. I was on yesterday, too. Well, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I have to PVR that. Anyways, Golden State Warriors, I think they're even more motivated than ever before because I'm reading this article in front of me from ESPN. Joe Lacob, the owner, when he had a discussion with Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan, the GOAT himself, told him, 73 wins don't mean squat. It doesn't mean anything without the ring. I know everybody feels the same way, but coming from him, I quote Joe Lacob right here. Joe Lacob says, I have to be honest, it's painful more to the players, which means the Warriors want to come back stronger than ever this year. And with the acquisition of Kevin Durant, they're playing unbelievable this year, of course, which was expected. But I think if Durant can survive Saturday's toxic, very, very poisonous environment he's going to have to face, if he survives that, he can survive any kind of environment. including whatever lies in store ahead in the NBA Finals or the playoffs. So it's just something that I just wanted to point out there, my man.
All right. I mean, listen, I don't disagree with that. I think tomorrow night's going to tell us a lot about Kevin Durant. I really, really do. Because I think that level of duress, and I'll tell you what, too, I'm predicting that Kevin Durant's going to have an epic performance. I think he's going to show up even more so than Russell Westbrook because Draymond Green and guys like that are going to see to it. Golden State's going to have his back, but they're also going to give him the ball and say, all right, be that rough rider we know you can be. Take us there, damn it. And he's going to do it. I really do. I think Kevin Durant's going to have a big game. Calvin in Chicago, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Real quick, Calvin, go ahead.
Okay, what's up, Stephen? I just want to say one thing, man. When I met Charles Oakley back in the Chicago days, man, he seemed like the type that's just straightforward. I don't think
he is.
If he had a problem, I think he would have just walked up to James Dolan and told him dead in his face. And I think that squashed that. If I'm on his side, my last topic is I think Kevin Durant, I can't honor him as a great competitor for this move just because, like you said, man, you overcome the great. Like, if you and Charles Barkley was a debater of who's the best, and if you somehow lost, I don't see you the next year joining up with Barkley to say, hey, I'll just join your team. So I just think, man, that stoutness of what toughness and greatness brings, I just don't think he has it. But he's a good player.
You know what it is? And I'm going to keep you on for this one point, Calvin, because I want a yay or nay with you. I got a problem, Calvin, with folks who compare LeBron's move to Miami to his to Golden State. And here's why. LeBron, Chris Bosh, and D. Wade had never played together at all, any of the three. And Pat Riley and the Miami Heat as an organization had to build around new personnel that they had acquired outside of Dwayne Wade. In the case of Kevin Durant, the Splash Brothers and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, along with Draymond Green, Iguodala, Sean Livingston, not only had they played together, they won a championship together and went to 2 NBA Finals together. To me, that's the epitome of Kevin Durant jumping on a bandwagon. That's the difference between him and LeBron James. I don't see how anybody gets that.
You're 100% right. 1,000% right with me, Stephen A. Man. Stay smooth. Keep doing your thing. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Man.
I appreciate it. No problem. I really don't see the comparison. I don't see how LeBron James' move to Miami is completely different than Kevin Durant's move to Golden State because Kevin Durant jumped on a bandwagon. LeBron helped build a bandwagon. There's a difference. But that's just me. Hour number 2 up next. Former Lakers coach, former Lakers champion, Byron Scott's got a new book out, and he's on here to talk with us about it and his experiences in the NBA and the Los Angeles Lakers. Stick around. Hour number 2 with Stephen A. up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
The San Antonio Spurs are in the middle of an 8-game road trip.
Knocks down the triple. Oh, wow, man.
Which takes them to Madison Square Garden this Sunday. Coverage begins at 2:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
Hey, basketball fans, I'm George Sedano, and the latest NBA Lockdown podcast. Israel Gutierrez, Kevin Pelton, and I get into the mess that is the New York Knicks, from Charles Oakley to Phil Jackson tweeting about Melo. And, of course, we preview KD versus Russ.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here with you on ESPN Radio, where I usually am every weekday afternoon. 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific Coast Time, right here over the airwaves of 98.7 FM in New York, 710 ESPN LA, and, of course, Sirius XM, ESPN Channel 80. As promised, on the line right now is the former head coach for the New Orleans Hornets, the former head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the former head coach for the New Jersey Nets before that, and, of course, the former head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, now out with a book entitled Leading from Every Position on Life's Court. Former champion with the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson and the crew. My man Byron Scott is on the line with us right now. What's going on, man? How you doing?
You know, I'm doing good, Stephen. What's going on with you?
I know this much. I know the minute I heard your voice just now, I couldn't tell whether it was Byron Scott or Barry White. I got to tell you that, man. I got to tell you. It was that Barry White voice right there, bro. That's what I heard.
No, bro, that's just me, man. That's just me being me.
I know. Before I get into you, I get into it with you about this book and about some basketball items. What is this I hear about you being a part of, since I'm thinking about The Voice here, what is this I'm hearing about you and the jazz music series night? I mean, what is that about with Byron Scott? What does Byron Scott have to do with that?
Steven, man, you know what? I've been a big fan of music. I love music for so long, man, and I was executive producer of one of my boys' CD, and I just kind of fell into this. I just wanted to bring some entertainment to the South Bay. I live in Hermosa Beach, and I said, you know what? Let's do a jazz night on the first of every Sunday. This one being a little bit different because it's close to Valentine's, and we wanted to do one on Valentine's weekend and just bring music down there. And we did it a couple of months ago, and it was a big success. And my boy Chip Sharon, who's a bass player, Hall of Fame bass player, got his group together. And, man, we just been bringing in guys, and we brought in Warren Hill. We're bringing in Michael Langston this week. And it's just a love that I've had. And man, it's just something that's been on my heart. And now everybody says, man, now you becoming a producer, or you putting on these concerts. But it really wasn't all about that. It was just about bringing the love of music that I have to the South Bay, because it was something that's been missing down there. And like I said, it was a huge success, and we look forward to doing it again.
Talking to Byron Scott, former member of the Los Angeles Lakers, played with them from 83 to 93, won about 3 or 4 NBA championships with Magic Johnson and the crew, by the way, before he got into coaching. He's right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. This new book, Leading from Every Position on Life's Court. Talk to me about your book. Talk to me about why you've decided to write it.
You know what, Stephen A., it's called Slam Dunk from Success, and then that's kind of the heading. And it was a book that really kind of came together with a friend of mine named Charlie Norris. And Charlie and I have been friends for 9 years, and we're workout partners. And one day we were working out, and we was talking about, we should do a book. And it really started off as a workout book for people that are 50 and over, because we're both in really good shape, and we go to the gym religiously. And it just took a form of its own, and it started talking about, we really started talking about the things that we have so much in common. If you see us on the cover of the book, you see me, ex-athlete, a little bit taller than him, a little bit darker. He's a little bitty short Jewish guy, and you see us, and you wouldn't think that we have anything in common, but we really found that we have a lot in common, especially when it comes to our direction as far as business and in sports. And running the basketball team and him running these different corporations, we saw that we had a lot of the same visions. So we decided to put it on paper. And the thing is just kind of took off like wildflower, and it's coming out April 25th. My main man, Irvin Magic Johnson, is hosting a book signing party for us at Equinox in West LA on April 29th. And then we're going to New York, and we're doing another book signing party. It's just really just jumping off real good, but it really talks about just, how to become a leader if you're not already one, because I really feel that everybody has leadership qualities in them. You just got to sometimes pull it out of certain people. And he did it in the business world. I did it in the basketball world. And we just decided to just tell a lot of our stories all these years on how we had a lot of success and a lot of failures as well, and how we bounced back from those failures. And I think this book can really help guys that are starting off in the business world or in professional athletes. They're 20 years old up to 60-year-olds, because you got businessmen who always want to get better, and just like you got basketball players who always want to get better, I think this is something that can really help both, and we're really excited about it, and we're really looking forward to it. And you're getting the first copy, so you can check it out and give me your expertise and your critique on it as well.
Well, I will. I was talking to the book. The title of the book is Slam Dunk Success, Leading from Every Position on Life's Court. The foreword was written by the one and only Irvin Magic Johnson. Last question on the book, Coach, in this regard. Do you feel like the timing of the book is right? Because the reason I asked that question is because of this. Struggled last year, coaching the Los Angeles Lakers, struggled, when you're in Cleveland in untenable situations, but had success with the New Jersey Nets, had some success in New Orleans when Chris Paul was your point guard. You still think the timing of this book was ideal?
I think it's perfect, because again, like I said, it talks a lot about the successes I've had as a player, as a coach. It talks about a lot of the failures that I've had as a coach as well. And this book is going to kind of simulate the fact that, no matter what life throws at you, no matter how down you might be, no matter if you have failed at certain jobs, in other people's opinion, it might not be your opinion. But this kind of tells everybody how I've just kind of picked myself right back up, done this book. I'm back on ESPN having a great time with The Jump with Rachel Nichols. I'm doing a couple of other things with a couple other businesses as their spokesperson. So I'm still enjoying life. I'm still having a lot of success, and I think this book kind of tells that too.
Byron Scott right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let me get into some basketball stuff with you. Earvin Magic Johnson is an advisor now to Jeannie Buss and the Los Angeles Lakers, but was on the record talking about how somebody's got to make the final decision, and they're still working on that because he would like that to be him. If everybody's huddled in a room, he wants to be the one making that final basketball-related decision. What were your thoughts when you heard the news that Jeannie Buss was bringing him back as an advisor? And what are your thoughts about him being the final decision maker that he wants to be for the Los Angeles Lakers if it eventually comes to that?
I thought it was a smart move on Jeannie's part to bring Buck back in the fold, get him back into the Laker family. I know him and some of the Buss members don't get along extremely well, and I won't mention names, but I thought it was great that he got back on board. And if he has the final decision, as I know that they're contemplating and they're talking about at this particular time, I think it's the right thing to do. This man is a basketball man. He knows the game, as you know. He's played the game at the highest level, so he's going to be one of those guys. If he's sitting at the table and he's sitting there with free agents and he's talking to them about bringing L.A. back, what better person in L.A. with that organization to have at the table than Magic Johnson? So you're going to get those free agents that really come in here and give the Lakers a serious look at coming back to Los Angeles to play because you have Magic Johnson at that table. So I think it's a brilliant move, and I think if they give him, if Jeannie, that is, give him, full authority to make those type of decisions, then I think you'll see the Laker, organization back up in the top in a couple of years.
Well, you don't have to say it, but I would. We all know Jeannie and Jim don't get along. Damn it! I mean, that's been an impediment to the success of the franchise for many, many years. And I guess what I'm asking, without you mentioning names, because you can leave that to me, how much of an impediment to the success is a relationship like that for any franchise in general in today's NBA? Can you answer that for me?
It's huge. It's huge. It's no secret why the Lakers in the 80s and the 90s were so, and 2000, the early 2000s, they were so successful. One reason, Dr. Buss, his relationship with players, his reputation around the league was second to none. So it's no secret that bringing Magic is going to give him another identity. Bringing him back to the table is going to give this organization the identity that they've been missing for the past 10 years.
Byron Scott right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Do you think ultimately Jeannie Buss will be brave enough to give Magic Johnson that authority, or will she hold on to allowing her brother Jim to remain in charge?
You know what? I think this first move of hiring and bringing Magic back was a telltale sign to me that she's at the at her ends right now with the way everything is going, and I think she is about to make that move and that decision. And obviously it's going to be a tough decision for her because you're talking about family, but we're also talking about business. And you want this organization, this proud organization, who've been one of the pinnacle organizations of all the sports, you want them to get back to that level. And it's not going to happen with what they have right now. So bringing Magic back was a telltale sign to me that she's ready to move on.
You're satisfied with the talent that the Lakers have?
It could be better. It's no doubt about that. It could be better. I mean, they made some moves this year to bring in some veteran guys that upgraded the talent of that team. But Stephen A., for me, it's always going back to those young guys. It's going to go back to D'Angelo Russell. It's going to go back to Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, Brandon Ingram. Those guys, are they going to turn out to be exactly what, the organization thinks they can be? And right now, that's unknown. I mean, it is very unclear if those guys are guys that can carry a franchise.
Byron Scott, slam dunk success, leading from every position on life's court. The new book is out. Thank you so much for your time, buddy. I appreciate it. And by the way, I mean, is it a foregone conclusion? Is it Golden State versus the Cleveland Cavaliers? Is that the finals, or does somebody out there have the potential to interrupt this?
To me, it's only one team that has the potential to interrupt, and that's San Antonio. That's the only team I think that can interrupt it and make it a San Antonio-Cleveland series. But I don't even see that happening. As great as Pop is, I love him to death. As great as that organization is, Golden State is playing at a different level than anybody else. And Cleveland right now, there's just nobody in the East that can really challenge them. If you look at Boston and you look at Toronto, they're having unbelievable seasons, especially Boston. But those two teams, at the end of the day, in a 7-game series, you cannot beat that man that wears the jersey 23 in Cleveland in a 7-game series. So I do see it being Cleveland and Golden State again, and I see it going another 6 or 7 games. It's going to be one of those type of series.
What if the Clippers manage to get their hands on Carmelo Anthony with your boy CP3?
Well, then it's going to be interesting because you would hope if they do that deal, by the playoff time starts, that team will be gelling because, again, they're going to go through a little bit of a transition. Carmelo getting used to those guys getting used to Carmelo. But I still think without Chris Paul being 100%, the Clippers got no chance. If he's 100%, you know how I feel about CP. If he's 100%, his will, he's going to make them, he's going to make them a race in that dog.
I don't care what anybody says, Byron. I think Chris Paul is the greatest pure point guard in the NBA today. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh, I don't disagree with you because he is exactly what you just said, a pure point guard. He thinks about getting all his teammates involved, but if you put pressure on him to score, he can do that too, but that's not his forte. He wants to get his guys involved. And then on the other end, he's going to be a dog. He's going to guard you. He's going to give you everything he's got.
Byron Scott, proud of you, man. Great running into you a couple of weeks ago in L.A. Keep doing it. Slam dunk success, leading from every position on life's court. The Foreword by Magic Johnson. The book by Byron Scott and his friend Charlie Norris. Byron Scott right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Thanks a lot, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, nothing but love, Stephen.
No doubt. The one and only Byron Scott right here with Stephen A. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Your phone calls. Back to your phone calls in a minute with your boy, Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Kevin Durant is now a Golden State Warrior.
Kevin Durant is leaving.
Well, I'm viewing that as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar.
We talked to one fan here, and she actually talked about how this has kind of resolved her to stick with the Thunder even more.
Kevin Durant makes his first trip to Oklahoma City as a Warrior.
Westbrook ascends like a rocket to the cup.
Don't miss the fireworks this Saturday night in OKC. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
You know something? It's the most decorated documentary of the year, winning over 45 awards, including the Directors Guild of America, the Producers Guild of America, and 4 Critics' Choice Documentary Awards for Best Documentary Feature. Critics have declared it a triumph, a landmark achievement, and the #1 documentary of the year. And now, guess what, y'all? It's an Academy Award nominee. O.J. Made in America, airing Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. One other thing, as a note, we've been talking over the last 24 hours about Charles Oakley and what happened at Madison Square Garden. You heard Charles Oakley come right on this radio show on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Nationwide, Channel 80, ESPN Radio, Channel 80. Of course, 710 ESPN LA right here, because they care about what's going on in the world. And, of course, 98.7 FM in New York. For the purposes of the 98.7 FM in New York, you heard from Charles Oakley. And this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the one and only Michael K. The Michael K. Show with Don Juan LaGreca will have the owner of the New York Knicks, Mr. James Dolan, in studio, 4 o'clock today. I'm looking forward to hearing from that man. Happy that Michael K. is getting him. And just as proud that Mr. Dolan isn't hiding for a change. Would be nice to see Phil Jackson. I tell you that much. I mean, damn, how could you be about 6'9" with bad hips and still manage to hide so much like he has? Be nice. But James Dolan definitely will suffice in this particular situation. James Dolan, chairman of Madison Square Garden, owner of the New York Knicks, live in studio with Michael K. The Michael K. Show at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. That is an hour and 37 minutes from now. Stay tuned, everybody. Stay tuned. Tom in Dobbs Ferry, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Stephen A. We spoke a little bit yesterday about who Dolan might use as a scapegoat, and starting out, obviously, with the head of security. But I have a thought for you. Don't want to bounce off you, okay, my man?
Yes, sir.
Here's Dolan again in the middle of this, looking for diversions.
Mm-hmm.
The Adam Silver should get involved in this, like the Major League Baseball did with George Steinbrenner, and give this man a suspension for 2 years, get him out of the Garden, get him out of basketball operations.
What warrants Adam Silver suspending James Dolan?
Okay. There is a absolute pattern for years and years and years, whether it's a sexual harassment suit, whether it's basketball lifers getting dragged through the mud like Larry Brown and Donnie Walsh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not in the best interest of the game. That's what we know about.
Stop
okay?
right there. Stop right there.
Yep.
Can't let you go any further. Here's why I can't let you go any further, Tom. You're right about things that made bad headlines. You have to remember that regardless of the Anuka Brown-Sanders case, James Dolan and Madison Square Garden fought that case, categorically denied it. That's number one. Number two, only thing else you got on him is bad decisions and losing records. That is not a justification for a commissioner to strip an owner of ownership and an affiliation with the league just because you're losing. Somebody's got to lose. Everybody can't win. Can't do that, Tom. You know, you have no justification for that. Listen, James Dolan damn sure could do a better job. His record is putrid, to say the least. No question. There's nothing you said that justifies him being suspended for 2 years or being stripped of ownership of the New York Knicks, Tom. You can't go that far.
Because this is what I'm saying. Charles Oakley being in the bowels of Madison Square Garden shackled.
Doesn't matter.
It warrants an investigation.
No. It warrants an investigation, Tom. It warrants an investigation. Hold on, wait, stop, Tom. You're right about it should be looked into. You said the man should be stripped of ownership, suspended for 2 years. You can't do that, Tom. Can't do that.
Stephen A.
Yes, sir.
He took his bows for the Donald Sterling nonsense, which was a layup. An old bigot in an African-American dominated league.
Caught on tape.
Correct.
Talking about why do you have to talk to black people? I mean, why do you have to deal
he's
with
an idiot. He's a moron. That was a layup.
But wait a minute.
I'm saying Adam Silver took his bows.
Tom, you're being emotional. LeBron James and CP3 and others were going to boycott during the NBA Finals because of this man's rhetoric. There's nobody threatening such things about James Dolan. You still got Knicks fans coming to the games. You can't say that. But I got to go. Let's talk about this another time. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. By the way, speaking of leagues and the league itself and the players and some of the issues they may have, they've got an issue with President Trump. And they've got some relatively significant backing. I'll explain in a minute. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
You know, I spoke yesterday when Steph Curry, two-time league MVP, reigning two-time league MVP, spoke against the president, Donald Trump, in the aftermath of CEO for Under Armour, who Steph Curry endorses. The aftermath of that CEO acknowledging that he supports Trump and considers Trump an asset to America. Steph Curry came out and said, take out the ETS. And that's what I think of Trump. Basically calling the president the ASS word. My position was clear. not to emulate Michelle Obama, but so what? The wonderful former First Lady of the United States, but when they go low, you go high. You don't have to go low. And I think that when it comes to the President of the United States, if you don't respect the man, respect the office. Because everything you say, folks will be watching. And if belligerence and cantankerous behavior and irresponsible rhetoric, even if he's doing is something, even if he's doing it, if it's something that you choose to do, how does that benefit us as a whole? We got to think bigger and deeper than that. And so it's not about keeping a player silent. It's not about telling them not to ridicule or hold the president accountable, because we certainly have the right to do that in this nation, and we should. It's just about being intelligent and evading the cliches and the incendiary rhetoric in order to do it. Just call him out on a carpet for serious issues that he doesn't address or addresses unfairly. That's all I was saying. But Dan Le Batard has a radio show on ESPN Radio, and he was interviewing Michelle Roberts, the executive director of the NBA Players Association. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. I think it was yesterday. And he was asking her about whether or not players were going to be quiet or not. And Michelle Roberts had this response. Listen up.
This is a very interesting political climate that we're living in, and I don't want to opine in order to suggest what people should or should not say, but we're going to see a lot more of this as people weigh in on what's happening politically, and I don't think my players are going to be silent about things that they're impressed about. So, again, I fully support Steph's right to say what he said, and again, I think we're going to need to hold on, because we're going to have more commentary by more players and more of us, period. These are very, very volatile times.
I completely agree with her. She's right. The only thing that I would say is let's be responsible in doing so. Because here's where things resonate with me. You want to call somebody names, validate why. It's just like people who'll sit up there and use some of the isms like race and other things to he's a xenophobe, he's a racist. Why? Say it clear. Enunciate and elocute your points of views. So when you're speaking, it's not just some sound bite you got from television that you're leaning off of. That's my issue. See, this is why I'm a registered independent, ladies and gentlemen. It's just like when liberals are quick to call conservatives racist. You know the first thing I think about? So I'm supposed to assume you're not? Why? Because you have the liberal attached to your name? I recall members of the KKK that were senators in the Democratic Party. That's why I don't go for that. I go on a case-by-case, issue-by-issue basis in terms of what's going on in this world, what we need, and how it's being addressed by either side. And the more you intellectualize and educate yourself on the issues, the more you have a right to say something. The more you don't, the less you should say. It's just that simple to me. And it's not because of me. It's because of the interest of the American people. Whether you like it or not, 62.9 million people voted for him. I damn sure wasn't one of them. But 62.9 million people voted for the man. They're not all racist. Some of them were caring about feeding their families and taking care of their responsibilities. Others are fearful because of the aftermath of 9/11 and orange, code orange and code reds and all of this other stuff going on. You're scared to fly. You're scared to drive. You're scared to use the subway. You're scared to go anywhere. Maybe being xenophobic is a bit extreme. But was it the candidate that created that atmosphere? Or could it have been the creation of Homeland Security? And things that followed, that bred the candidacy of Donald Trump, who's a businessman, saw a manner in which he could capitalize off of it, and made a name for himself on the election campaign by swearing he was going to build a wall, it was going to be a great big wall, and the Mexicans are going to pay for it. Latinos supposedly were up in arms, but 29% of them voted for him. Sometimes we just need to fall back, watch, listen, and learn as much as we can. And if you're going to speak, don't speak as an expert. Speak just enough to get the experts involved, so once they grab the baton, they'll know what to do with it. A hell of a lot better than me, you, or anybody else. Just a suggestion, y'all. Just a suggestion. Stone in Atlanta, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Stone?
Stephen A., what's going on, man? I appreciate everything you do. Pretty much me and my friend was going through a debate the other day, man, and it came down to who's a better point guard, Chris Paul or Tony Parker, man. I wanted to get your take on it.
Tony Parker is a more accomplished point guard, obviously, because he has championships, and I think he's a more gifted scorer. But in terms of being a prototypical point guard who runs a show, I don't think there's any question it's CP3.
Thank you, man. That's what I was trying to tell him, man. I mean, minus Tony Parker's resume, but Chris Paul, man, he's a better overall point guard, man. I appreciate it.
He's a floor leader, a floor general. Tony Parker is a point guard who could score very much and was more prolific as a scorer than CP3. Tony Parker was special, and he's a champion, and it's worth being noted. But do you think that CP3 wouldn't have had a few titles if he had Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan as teammates with Greg Popovich as his coach? I think CP3 would be a champion,
too. That's what I was telling him.
That's me.
That's what I was telling him. It's a system, man. It's a system.
Well, my man, Stone, you just got it from the man. He can't argue with you now.
Sir.
Your boy hooked you up.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate you. No problem. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. We'll close out the show with your phone calls in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Kevin Durant is now a Golden State Warrior.
Kevin Durant is leaving. Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar.
We talked to one fan here, and she actually talked about how this has kind of resolved her to stick with the Thunder even more.
Kevin Durant makes his first trip to Oklahoma City as a Warrior.
Westbrook ascends like a rocket to the cup.
Don't miss the fireworks this Saturday night in OKC. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I would give Phil Jackson credit for this. James Dolan coming in the studio to talk to Michael Kay on 98.7 FM in New York at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this afternoon. He's the one who should be in here. Phil Jackson has nothing to do with this Charles Oakley situation. Nothing. This is all about James Dolan and Charles Oakley. Phil Jackson has nothing to do with this. So in that regard, I will confess to you, Phil Jackson is innocent in this regard. He has nothing to do with the whole Oakley situation. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Ronald in Long Island, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, bro, how's it going?
I'm good.
Look, I want to talk to you about what I feel, and an objective right quick. The unrealistic expectations of Knicks fans since Phil Jackson was hired. I heard you, look, I was 9-12 when the Knicks won their last championships. I think I heard you give stats since 2001, the record of the Knicks since
509 and 740. That's 231 games under 500.
Phil was hired, I believe, 2 years ago, 2015. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying I've listened, and Stephen, I know it's a thorn in your side. But again, the allure of coming to New York has been gone for a long time. Phil and his big name in all of his rings, his history, was not going to be the only ingredient to be able to attract this new talent, especially in this generation, to come to New York City. It's not there no more.
Well, that's true. That's true.
What it has shown over that time period has made young fellas realize I can go somewhere else and be successful, and I'm not coming to New York just because of a name. It's unrealistic to think that he was going to just turn this team around.
Here's what's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. You're right. But at the same time, it didn't stop him from taking it $10 to $12 million a year to come here and give the impression that it was something that he could do. And when you are an 11-time champion and you can't even get people to sit down to dinner with you, that's bad.
Steven, I'm going to say this. If Jim Dolan would have threw that in front of any of us, we're going to get in front of the
we
media.
know that. Well, we know that.
Exactly.
We know that.
So again, the money and all that's fine. Again, I just think, again, it's unrealistic in a
I got your point. I hear you loud and clear, Ronald. I hear your point. But it's not about the 2 or 3 year period. It's not that we expected him to be a champion, but you could be moving in a forward direction. How about not hiring a novice coach? And then how about hiring a coach in Jeff Hornacek, who's clearly not a difference maker? He's not a bad coach, but he's not a difference maker. How about that? But he didn't do that either, did he? Paul in Rhode Island, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Paul?
Stephen A., thank you for having me on. Stephen A., the first thing I want to say is whatever ESPN is paying you, it's not enough. I mean, I am a casual fan of sports radio, and I was listening to your interview on WEEI up here over the Super Bowl weekend about the topic of racism in Boston being a racist city. And I listen to sports radio to escape from all the political noise. Unfortunately, it's hard to do that today. But your interview and your approach, your sensible approach to the topic really impressed me. I don't know who you are. I don't listen to you that much. But it impressed me enough that I don't call any shows, ever. I'm in the medical profession. I just don't have time to do that. I had to call and thank you for that interview and your points, the points that you made. Your calling is beyond sports, Stephen A. You need to run for political office.
Never.
That's all I got to say.
Paul, I appreciate that. I'm touched. Thank you so much. But political office, that requires votes. And that requires, you telling people just what they want to hear so you can garner their support. That's not me. I want to be honest. I want people to know that, when they listen to me speak, I mean what I say. But I have an open mind and I'm willing to be corrected if I'm wrong. But I don't want to be a guy that, has to kiss tail and all of that stuff just to get votes. I just don't want to do that. But, Paul, I deeply appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. Let's go to Corey in Brooklyn. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Corey?
What's going on, Stephen A.? How are you?
I'm good. Talk to me. What's up?
All right, good. Me and my coworkers is having a discussion about a topic you brought up on First Take. Randy Moss, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
He has all the credentials. We know he has all the credentials. Question is, would you think he'll be voted in on the first ballot with everything that happening with T.O.? The only reason I bring that up, is because I think of AI. Different sport, yes. But with all the transgressions and things that happen with AI, the way he was able to elevate himself and then become a Hall of Famer, why wouldn't they look at T.O. and Randy Moss in the same manner?
Well, listen, T.O. should be in the Hall of Fame. T.O. should have been in the Hall of Fame already. It's an absolute travesty that he's not. And Randy Moss should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. It shouldn't even be open for discussion. But if you're Dan Fouts, along with another NFL player like Lofton, and 46 members of the media who by and large voted against Terrell Owens being a first ballot Hall of Famer, how are you then going to turn around and justify putting Randy Moss in as a first ballot? Randy Moss had 3 more touchdowns than T.O. They played practically the same amount of games, 219 to 218. T.O. had 1,078 receptions. Randy Moss had 982. Randy Moss had, 15,292 yards. T.O. had 15,934 yards and just 3 touchdowns shy. Overall, his numbers are better than Randy Moss. I'm not saying he was better than Randy Moss. Randy Moss is clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer. But if Randy Moss is clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer, how can you justify doing that and leave T.O. out when T.O. was simply a headache in the locker room, but Randy Moss had that, plus he had some legal issues. I think we shove all of that aside for both. I think they're both first ballot Hall of Famers because they showed up and they handled their business. But also there was questions about Randy Moss's effort in Oakland, Randy Moss's effort in New England at times. Accurate or not, those were the reports. I love Randy Moss, gotten to know him. He's a colleague at ESPN. I support him. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer without question, but there is no way in hell that you could justify based on Dan Fouts' remarks that you could leave T.O. out of the Hall of Fame, but you're going to induct Randy Moss in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no way. There's no way. Kevin in North Carolina, real quick, you're live with Stephen A.
How you doing, Stephen A., man? First off, I want to say we love you here, man. I go to school in North Carolina A&T. But my question is, do you think the Knicks should blow everything up, trade?
I lost you, but you stopped at an appropriate time. Do I think the Knicks should blow everything up? Yes. I think they should trade Carmelo Anthony. I think they should fire Phil Jackson, send him home to L.A. where he really wants to be. And if I had my druthers, they would move in a forward direction. I think a guy like Joe Dumars should be an executive. But even more important than that, I think Mark Jackson should be the coach of the New York Knicks. Why am I saying Mark Jackson? It is not because he's a New Yorker. I'm sorry, it is not because he's a colleague at ESPN and he's a friend. It's because he's a native New Yorker who has proven he can coach on this level, who would give New Yorkers a reason to be patient and believe in this product because he is invested locally. That is what I believe, and that is why I believe that Mark Jackson should be the next head coach for the New York Knicks. Got to get on out of here. Thank y'all for chilling out with me. I'm heading to Oklahoma City for the game, the Warriors versus the Thunder. Tomorrow night, ABC, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. James Dolan with Michael K. at 4 p.m. on 98.7 FM in New York. Talk to y'all Monday. Peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Kevin Durant makes his first trip to Oklahoma City as a Warrior.
Westbrook ascends like a rocket to the cup.
Don't miss the fireworks.